thing you can say about Kamala Harris is that despite her far-left belief system, she's willing to say just about anything to get ahead. 1 minute, she's the defund the police BLM bail money raiser, and the next she's presenting herself as the tough prosecutor that criminals fear. But perhaps her biggest backflip in recent years is going from an open border radical who defended those who pay human traffickers to enter America illegally to, well, you'll see.
A mother who pays a coyote to transport her child through their country of origin, through the entire country of Mexico, facing unknown peril to come here. Why would that mother do that? I will tell you. Because she has decided for that child to remain where they are is worse. But what does Donald Trump do? He says, go back to where you came from. That is not reflective of our America and our values, and it's got to end.
To be clear to folks in this region who are thinking about making that dangerous trek to the United States-Mexico border, do not come. Do not come. And I believe if you come to our border, you will be turned back.
Oh, they did come, Kamala. They came and they weren't turned back. 18 million entered illegally. Well,
Chief, was Harris made the border czar or given these immigration duties when you were the chief? And did she ever call you or meet with you?
So let's back up. Thanks for having me on, Griffin. Let's back up a second. So she was made vice president of the United States by the American population, and everybody in the government, especially the executive branch, falls underneath her. So it's almost irrelevant. But it was common knowledge that she was assigned the border czar. The term was used across every media network possible. And she went down to Latin America, Central America. But my understanding is, really, it was a show. She did not have meaningful conversations with anybody about slowing down the flow of illegal immigration to the United States. She didn't really do anything down there to, quote unquote, identify and fix the root causes of illegal immigration from those areas. And then later, when I was still chief, she went to El Paso. But again, she met with some NGOs. There was really not a huge crisis in El Paso at the time. There was a lot of illegal activity, but not compared to like Rio Grande Valley or Del Rio. She avoided all that. And again, she avoided any conversation about slowing down the flow. But then let's just look at the statistics. The illegal immigration from the areas that she was supposed to focus on, even if she was only focusing on the root causes, skyrocketed. So there's absolutely no way you can say anything that she did was a success.
Oh, Joe Biden is yesterday's man, and everybody seems to be in a tiz over Kamala Harris, especially the left-wing media, who are busy reimagining her.
Now, we've always known the left-wing media was biased, but leaked Democrat talking points have exposed just how biased. Have a listen to these news outlets repeating, in some cases, word for word, exactly what the Democrats have asked them to say about Kamala Harris.
She was never actually border czar.
She's been labeled incorrectly by some members of the right as the border czar.
Republicans named her the border czar.
Republicans have always exaggerated what her job was at the border.
Republicans, again, have labeled her the border czar.
But that's not exactly what President Biden asked her to do.
She was never put in charge of the border.
That wasn't actually her task.
Not to secure it, but to address the underlying roots of migration.
The root causes.
Root causes.
Root causes.
The root causes.
Root causes
of immigration.
We also want to point out that right now apprehension numbers continue to decrease.
Border crossings have been going down.
And illegal border crossings are lower right now.
Migrant crossings continue to drop.
Border crossings are way down.
Border crossings are down.
Unbelievable. We're joined now by commentator and host of the Brad versus Everyone podcast, Brad Palumbo. Brad, thanks for joining us. If you listen to the left-wing media, they're literally just regurgitating Democrat talking points.
They are, and more than anything, they're just shameless liars, debasing themselves to defend a political candidate, which, guys, that's not what the role of the media is supposed to be. They're supposed to hold political candidates to account, not shamelessly shill for them and attempt to rewrite history. I mean, we all know, we all remember Joe Biden very clearly put Kamala Harris in a significant role in regards to his immigration and border policy. And guys, if it had turned out better, if the results were good rather than the hot mess at our border that we've had instead, they would be giving her all the credit in the world for it. But because the border has been a huge liability for this administration, they're now trying to gaslight us and pretend that Kamala was never really involved. She was only given minor duties. It's not true. Many of these mainstream media outlets literally reported at the time that he was making her border czar, the border czar, or the border point person, the immigration point person, whatever you want to call it. We all remember this. And just because she failed at that job and the administration failed to secure our border more broadly, they're now trying to rewrite history rather than acknowledge those failures. And it is just so disgraceful that the mainstream media is doing their bidding instead of pointing out this reality that the White House wants to run away from.
They're clearly not doing their own research here.
I mean, she's incredibly vapid, even more incredibly liberal, and she doesn't have any accomplishments. In fact, she owns all the policies of the Biden-Harris administration. She owns the border. She
asked her, the VP today, because she's the most qualified person to do it, to lead our efforts with Mexico and the Northern Triangle and the countries that help. We're going to need help in stemming the movement of so many folks, stemming the migration to our southern border. But the vice presidents agreed, among the multiple other things I have her leading, and I appreciate it, agreed to lead our diplomatic effort and work with those nations to accept the returnees and enhance migration enforcement at their borders. It's not her full responsibility and job, but she's leading the effort because when she speaks for me, doesn't have to check with me. She knows what she's doing, and I hope we can move this along. So, Madam Vice President, thank you. I gave you a tough job, and you're smiling. But there's no one better capable of trying to organize this for us.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, and for having the confidence in me. And there's no question that this is a challenging situation. As the President has said, there are many factors that lead President to leave these countries. And while we are clear that people should not come to the border now, we also understand that we will enforce the law, and that we also, because we can chew gum and walk at the same time, must address the root causes that cause people to make the trek, as the President has described, to come here. And I look forward to engaging in diplomacy with government, with private sector, with civil society, and the leaders of each in El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras to strengthen democracy and the rule of law and ensure shared prosperity in the region. We will collaborate with Mexico and other countries throughout the Western Hemisphere. And as part of this effort, we expect that we will have collaborative relationships to accomplish the goals the President has and that we share.
Since being appointed by border czar by President Joe Biden, Kamala Harris has undoubtedly been a complete failure in her job and has destroyed our country by releasing a record-setting levels of criminals, rapists, and terrorists into our communities. Despite the attempts of the fake news media to whitewash her appointment as border czar, as Axios correctly reported, and they're now lying and say they never did, she was in fact labeled a border czar by nearly every major news outlet across the country. Border czar Kamala Harris said, "Do not come," yet proudly welcomed 11.5 million illegals from over 160 countries, including over 2 million known gotaways who completely evaded U.S. authorities. She stood by and allowed these people to come in and idly watched our children and women being raped by illegal alien criminals. She's not just allowing them to come. The policies of the administration allow the CBP One app to import over 400,000 illegals into American communities. Under her watch as border czar, this has happened. She can fake it for the photo ops, but we know that Kamala Harris wholeheartedly supports the chaos at our border, the chaos in our streets, and the chaos in the families who have been victims of her open border policies. Border Czar Harris outlandishly compared ICE to KKK and radically called for the ICE to be abolished. She also posted the Minnesota Freedom Fund to bail out violent Black Lives Matter terrorists who burned down cities, looted stores, destroyed communities, and caused over $2 billion in damage to American communities all over America. Kamala Harris is not only the border czar, she is also the czar of chaos. And her policies have destroyed Americans.